If MythBusters had a NSFW episode, what would you want to see on it? Does pineapple make your cum taste better? For sure. I normally mix 2 parts pineapple juice for each part cum in the cup. I want them to purchase every pill they see on the internet that would make their dick bigger and see what happens. They did. The "Can you get pregnant being shot with sperm on a bullet" episode. My wife was, "WTF are you watching?" Well, I'll be a son of a gun. They did prove that women with larger breasts will get more tips. Which isn't really not safe for work, because Carrie literally was working at a coffee shop. If breast enlargements will help your job, would you be able to write them off on your taxes? Provided that you can successfully establish that it was done for professional reasons only. It's really happened. Link in filing one's taxes. It may be necessary to distinguish between breast implants that are merely large and breast implants that are extraordinarily large. The relevant ruling on this subject came in 1994 in a case known as Hess v. Commissioner. The plaintiff, a self-employed exotic dancer, had implants that expanded her bust size to the size 5/6 ff. For tax purposes, she treated these as a deductible business expense on her Schedule C. The IRS contested her deduction. The purpose of deductions for business expenses is to avoid multiple levels of taxation on goods that are put together cooperatively by several businesses. This is good tax policy. However, a substantial difficulty in this is determining the difference between consumption goods and legitimate business expenses. A carpenter should be able to deduct the cost of wood he uses to create furniture to sell. Tax is paid on the income used to purchase it, and no further tax is necessary. But deductions are not a free excuse to make all of one's income tax exempt by listing a bunch of personal purchases, and the IRS is right to be skeptical of abuse of this provision. The relevant issue in Hess was whether breast implants, traditionally thought of as a luxury good bought for personal benefit, could be considered a legitimate business expense. Given that the plaintiff was an exotic dancer, she had a fair argument. But in general, taxpayers aren't allowed to treat personal appearance expenditures as business expenses unless they aren't suitable for personal use. Hess, arguing pro se, convincingly established that her implants were inconvenient in everyday life due to the sheer enormity of her breasts. The courts ruled in her favor. Because petitioner's implants were so extraordinarily large, we find that they were useful only in her business. Accordingly, we hold that the cost of petitioner's implant surgery is depreciable. Is squirting just pee? It comes from the same place. But even if it's just pee, making someone cum so hard they pee themselves is still a flex. What about if they cum so hard they shit themselves? True story time. My grandfather was living in a senior apartment and his neighbor Mildred was sweet on him. They started telling my mom and aunt that they were a couple. My aunt gets a call in the middle of the night frantically asking her to come help him. She gets there and Mildred had shit all over his bed. He pulled my aunt aside and said I fucked her so hard she shit herself. Edit. He was 82 at the time. I don't know how old Mildred was, but she was probably double his weight. How deep underwater are you still able to cum? Looks like around 5 meters. Link. Thank you NIH and RIP my search history. Edit. Given the functional non-compressibility of water, it seems like you could ejaculate at any depth. Also, if you've got a half bar of pressure differential across your body, ejaculation is probably the last thing on your mind. Edit 2. Yes, you can, and people have at least down to 13 m. I'll add that I genuinely love Reddit because of discussions like this. How many times can a man ejaculate in one 24-hour period and still produce fluid? Edit. My highest rated comment on Reddit is about how many times a man can cum in a day. SMH. Edit 2. Thank you for the gold, kind stranger. Size correlates to what? Feet? Nose? So many theories. I have size 12 feet and a massive nose and huge hands, and my penis is small. I wouldn't put this on your Tinder bio. Can you detect a measurable blood pressure difference when someone gets turned on? Do people get more stupid, IQ, memory, etc., when they get horny? How can you detect various date rape drugs? There is such a thing as a sphygmomanometer for the man member. I knew a guy who got involved with a 16-year-old when he was 18. Her dad was a social worker and long story short for a time he was a sex offender, until a judge with some sense expunged the whole thing. Dude has to go to court-mandated testing where they strapped something like a blood pressure cuff to his junk and the played tapes of young-sounding girls talking suggestively to see if it turned him as measured by the little pressure cuff to make sure he wasn't a pedophile because obviously you must be a pedo if you get involved with someone 2 years younger than you. I think the real sexual assault was him having to take that test. Someone strapping that cuff to my junk would make me hard. They set him up to fall. Can you actually get an STD from a toilet seat? This is an interesting thing actually. It was a myth deliberately perpetuated to make people less ashamed of asking for STD tests. If your dick has ever touched the inner toilet bowl of a public toilet, this feels like a very valid concern. One of my highest ever upvoted comments and it's about the most disgusting things to happen to me. FML. I love you, you nasty bitches. The witch's kiss. Turns out you can if the other man doesn't leave first. Jimmy Carr, paraphrased. Ha ha, Jimmy Carr paraphrased. A 5-second segment where Jamie points at a diagram and says, in complete deadpan, "This is where the clitoris is." A take on the top 10 OSHA violations list to see if they are as dangerous as they say.